Okay, we're going to do another one on hometown history. Somebody sent me this and said, debunk this about the Nubians. We was Nubians. And I said, okay. But West African primitives never knew the Nubians existed. He got all pissed off, but I clicked on this and looked at it and found that it was one of the earlier stuff that he had done on this channel and so on. So kind of a little bit of a different view on it, and you'll be able to see it here. So he doesn't have all of his stuff set up like he did before, and just a little younger and everything. This is a picture of an ancient Kushite, not a Nubian. And if you'll look, they don't have a prognostic jaw whatsoever, and it's hard to make it out here, but it looks distinctly like he has a mustache and a little chin beard. But it doesn't do the hang down thing like the Egyptians. You can kind of see that, but there's also a black smear that runs down his neck that looks like, and it just doesn't look right. Almost looks like somebody smeared black over the middle of his face, and the rest of it's just brown, right? And he's got gold around his eyes, so you can see it's a little different. But this is that period where they outlined everything in gold. In fact, you can see where they didn't color in, and they drew it all in that yellow ochre and stuff that they had developed. Well, let's just get into this and see what he says, and I'll slowly pick it apart and show you where he goes wrong, and we'll go from there. Ba-boom. Ba-boom.
What up, y'all? It's your boy Home Team here, and I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture, and worldview. And one of the reasons why I do this is because I realize a lot of our history books in our public school system don't teach African history. There's no African agency within our history books, meaning...
First thing you notice is that he's already had about 8 cuts just in that first 2 sentences, so he had to do this all over and over and over again and kind of took the cuts out of it. It almost looks like he's trying to do that nouveau thing where they just kind of chop it up a little bit but leave it the same and stuff like you see on some channels, and or occasionally put in a little jerk. But that's not really it. He wants to do it over and over again, lick them lips. And you notice that he has a total different attitude here. He's all yo about everything, but not acting so, oh, can we dare to say it, not acting so white like he does now and speaking very enunciative. He knows now that he's gotten a lot of attention and he wants to present himself very well. And amazingly, you can see instantly he understands present yourself well is not have on a sideways hat and go yo and stuff, and have a more presentable thing, and people would respect it more. Isn't that amazing? So let's go with, he's talking about how they don't learn in school about it, but I know we definitely do learn in school a lot about it. We don't learn about a few of them that he mentions, and some small time things and some offshoot things, but we don't do a lot of that in Caucasian history, and don't ever find about the Sumerians. And I wonder how many years till they teach about Göbekli Tepe and those amazing Caucasians at the end of the last ice age that were already making Stonehenges to my daughters. For I told them about it and showed it to them, and none of them had seen that in school, or they didn't even mention it. Like, ooh, wow! Even whenever they talk about Stonehenge, they didn't go, "Hey, and there's this thing like it. Let's move on." No, they didn't. They didn't do anything. But let's go with what he's got here, because they don't get known. They don't have a Black History Month and all their old thing. Oh, I'd have to mention though, Black History Month shows fake shows where they try to make Hannibal Barca a black person and say they were Egyptians and all kinds of things. He's at this point not trying to claim Egyptians so much, a little, sneaky in saying things, but he is trying to claim the others, and we'll get definitely into it.
A lot of the kids get the impression that Africa made no contribution to world culture or civilization at large.
And now what you're going to do is show a Negro looking at a Caucasian Egyptian that is so much lighter than her and does not have a prognostic jaw, and you're showing one that's extremely admixed, or she would have much more prognostic jaw, kind of like he does, and trying to insinuate, well, we don't remember about African history, Egypt. No, that's not your history. You'd have to go with sub-Saharan Negroids, and they really don't have anything that he's going to even try to talk about today. So right here at the adjunct of it all, we can say, well, West African primitives didn't know anything about what he's going to talk about, and they're really not related to the people that are there. They have some relation now due to Bantu expansion, but that happened much later and had nothing to do with it in ancient times either. But let's see after he tries to make this subliminal connection.
And that has a tremendous impact on how we view ourselves and how others view us, the home team diaspora. We talk.
Well, you know, we talking about how you claiming we as Egyptians and we was Cain and we was the Hebrews, and it comes out as real disgusting and stuff. And actually, everybody knows that you weren't those people. And there might be a question if there were some black people involved to some of these people. Anybody that's researched it would know that they're not, and the Nubians weren't even allowed into Egypt, but and you aren't related to Nubians, and therefore one, two, three, psh, it's gone. And sub-Saharan Negroids are primitives and didn't know anything about what was going on in the rest of the world, just as much as the rest of the world didn't know sub-Saharan Negroids existed. Look at Herodotus' map, and it clearly shows they don't really even know it. They just cut it off, you know. But they show through the Horn, and they talk about Caucasians way up in the Horn area, and we're going to get there in a minute.
About Christopher Columbus, we talk about Thomas Jefferson or Napoleon, but we never really get to Mansa Musa or Sunny Akita or King Taharka or Queen Zinga. All these.
Well, you know, they probably don't mention that. I don't know if they mention Mansa Musa or things like that. Some of that is embarrassing because, to be truthful, they'd have to say, after Caucasian domestication and half-breed, a half-breeded mulatto type person known as Mansa Musa sold as much of his people that he is believed to be the richest man ever. And after exploiting elephant ivory in his own people, he got so much money. He was probably the richest person at that time. Oh, and what did he do with that money? Oh, he blew it all on a quick trip to go to pray to a Caucasian god in the Islamic religion. What? Yeah, Islamic slave trade happened 900 years or more before the Americas were even found, and that started, and they were really exploiting Negroids through that whole time. But they usually castrated them and stuff, so then there wasn't really any children from off of it, so it was just a constant pull off of them what they needed. And they actually say themselves they pretty much disposed of them after use to keep from having to feed or housing. But black people don't want to talk about that, or the fact that black people still enslave black people today. They want reparations, and they want all these things for their, oh, what was it, 81 years they were in slavery or something. 1776 is America. Anything before that would be a foolish joke to try to play. So, because we weren't America, we didn't secede. We seceded then. So then we were America before we were England. So you can talk to England about the time before that. But 1776 to 1807, and 1807 we outlawed it. So I don't know, what's that, 31 years? And then you can go all the way to 1865 and say it's 90 something. And oh boy, well, what about the 900 over here? And what about the 92% of the ones that came to the Americas that really went to South America and didn't ever come to North America? It's some like 6%. Some people say 4.5%. Yeah. I got another vid that's coming out about it because Real History came out with all this thing and these lies and stuff again. But that's the reality of it. But West African primitives didn't know these people existed, and they're really not related. And you could call them a type of Negroid, but they're related to you just as much as the Khoisan are, or somebody like that. It's like, no, really.
Other great people. We got to remember to have a proper historical perspective. In a very diverse nation such as ours, we can't just have one historical perspective because it has a tremendous impact on our kids.
Well, people can make up whatever they want to, but if it goes directly against what's known science by the real scientist versus what feelings and we's is, and that doesn't work out too good. And that's what they have only ever given. For people think that they had something with this Van Sertima and Diop and all these other people have put out things, those was debunked as they came out. And blacks go, no, they didn't. Yeah, they did. Just like on my site, whenever I say something to them, they try to say something and I debunk it and I explain it to them totally. And then they go, no, you didn't. Really. I'm going to say the color red. Red. No, you didn't. This is your standpoint. Let's continue.
Of color mainly. What I wanted to talk today about was ancient Nubia. Personally, that's one of my favorite topics ever. A lot of people look at the relationship between Nubia and Egypt, and they see that the Nubians and the Egyptians were fighting like all the time.
Yeah, I've got a couple of videos about it and everything because I had jerks come on and try to tell me they is knowing more than me's, and I've researched the crap for quite a bit, but I specialize more in the Middle East and Sumeria and things and the heralds of mankind, and Egypt connects to that directly, but nothing does other than that. No, I've tried to find it. I've tried, and I've looked at every single thing a black person's ever sent and seen how it's easily debunked to what they even think. You know, like Mali Empire, he mentioned Sakita. So Mali Empire was started by Queen Tin Hanan. She's a Berber, some 800 years before that date that they tried to say, oh, they came in. No, so they found it. How could they found it was already there? You know, they can't be the founder of area that's already there. Hell, our tomb's right there. And Timbuktu and everything else, and it really doesn't matter because black people that are trying to present themselves as we in these situations actually weren't part of we in any way of those either. They weren't in Timbuktu. But let's continue.
And so they say to themselves, yo, these must be two different people. Because the Egyptians said, yo, we don't want no Nubians coming up here and dominating, so we about to build a border to kick them out. So
no, it's not that all of a sudden because they get in a fight they got to be two different people. For the only way that would happen right now in the old world is if you were to have Egyptians run into Nubians. For the Libyans and all of North Africa is all Caucasians and out through the Middle East and everybody, and you'd have to go all the way over down and into India before you're going to see somebody that ain't a straightforward Caucasian, and all the way up into China. And everywhere in between in Russia and everything, blah, 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 and the Aryan people, and all of Europe, yeah, Oh, well, there were Scythians and this thing, yeah, they're all the same people, there's Caucasians. Oh, y'all lived in the Caucasus Mountains. No, no, no. There's one of us two that are talking that used to live in a small area of West Africa, and they're trying to claim that they're all over the place. Now, regardless of where my parents were at the time, Caucasians as a race, to signify it, are all the way through there, North Africa, Egypt, and through the Horn of Africa. We can definitely look that up. In fact, I'm going to do it in a minute as soon as she slips one more time and tries to claim something in any way or makes a slip up, but that doesn't work. And is it just me, or does it look like he's got a funny look on his face, but his cap looks like it's a straw stuck in the black girl's mouth behind him, like she's drinking out of his hat? Let's go.
people look at that, scholars look at that, and they say, yo, these were two different people. But that's flawed thinking. We got to put it in its proper context. Say, for example, the relationship between the American colonists and the British.
No, you can't say that. Like what I was just trying to say a minute ago. All you would be seeing is Caucasians fighting Caucasians, Caucasians fighting Caucasians. You almost wouldn't get into craniometry with the people. You would look at what's left as remnants. Oh, this has got a Roman sword. The Romans and the... okay, so we're doing that, but it's Caucasian on Caucasian. Blacks love to do that, like what he's kind of alluding to a minute ago. Oh, it must be two different people. Well, which one of them are the Negroes then? Like, there's got to be one of them if there's two people. And it's no. Blacks weren't involved in any of this or the Bible or anything. Oh, no. They were. Which one of the 12 tribes were there? None. That's a Caucasian religion, a Caucasian book. I mean, Noah, perfect in his generations, has 3 kids, and they spawned out and created mankind. One is in Egypt, one is up in Greece, the other's over in Sumeria and doing it, saying, hello. That's where the Bible comes from. Abraham came from Ur. I know a lot of people, black people, have adopted it, and they want to be part of it so bad. They've made up a bunch of stories about that too. But they wouldn't have been related to anybody that even saw anybody from the Bible. But sad but true,
Now, say 1,000 years from now, they go and dig up, America, and they find, artifacts of the Revolutionary War, and they say, yo, these American colonists were fighting these British, these Europeans. They must be two different people.
No, the black guy is a little bit ditz, and he didn't put that past the logic meter. They'd be able to be going, okay, so these are the British Caucasians, and here are the American Caucasians that founded America fighting each other. And while this one's wearing a red coat, and this one here has a saber that looks different than that guy, yeah, it'd be pretty easy to figure it out. And the bones, let me tell you, these craniometry people, all they have to do is face the face towards them. Oh, 1 second, and they can tell the nasal slits and so on. A lot of people are so good at this, they can tell you where that person comes from, just from a small looking at the skull. But then they'll act like they don't want to be pinned down as certain, and they'd like to make some measurements and so on, but they're not saying, oh, I'm not certain it's not a Negro. They're making certain that they're in their mind that this person is a Mediterranean type person, or this person is more Turkish looking, just off his skull. So they know what the hell they're doing. And sad thing about Negroes is that they don't realize that hair is just easily different, and all these mummies have had hairs all the way through, and so they know for a fact that there aren't any Negro Egyptians. And no, not at the first, and no, not at the middle, and oh, but way at the 25th dynasty, but not them. That was Kushites. They were under Kushites. So it'd be like if you said, we fought in the Gulf War, and you'd be like, yeah, well, those Caucasian Americans did. Blacks lived there, so yeah, I guess you could claim that, but it's really not you. Some black people fought in it too. We'll go with that. Like the Egyptians had the Medjay fighters, and then actually had black people fighting black people for a while. But we won't get into that this time.
Then we'd be like, yo, that's completely absurd.
Hold on. I just want to make certain that you realize that everybody back then, though, spoke Ebonics, and they said, yo. And they be like.
But the same can be applied to Nubia and Egypt when we put it in its proper historical context. The Greeks, the historians like Herodotus and Diodorus. Herodotus specifically, he says, yo, these Nubians just...
Man, you've got to quit going, Herodotus, he walked up and he said, yo, I'm the hip, yo, no, Negro. Come on, man. What did Herodotus say?
This might be the most ancient people on the planet.
No, he said, this is what Negroes like to take out of context. They call him a historian. What he basically said was, these people say this, these people say that, those people say this. Some people believe the Ethiopians are the earliest of all men. What does that mean? Oh, some people had the belief that they had been there before that and everything. Oh, okay, well that's the Negroids that are 50% Caucasian DNA right now over in the Horn of Africa area. No. Now that was called Abyssinia until just recently. And to call them Ethiopians is something I guess you grew up with them starving and us sending them money and rice and everything, but that doesn't have to do with the things that were going on 3,500 years ago. How foolish to try to say, oh, everything's static, everything's what it was. Really? Because West Africans aren't where they were there. Oh, no, it falls apart. Let's take a look at something real quick. And we're going to look at Ethiopia of the Greeks. Now, this is Ethiopia. This is the Greeks. And regardless of what black people want real bad for Ethiopians to mean and to stand for, it doesn't stand for black people living in Abyssinia right now, for it means what they said. And in Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey, they mention them. Yeah, they mention him. And so where is it that all of these Ethiopians, because it seems like they talked about Herodotus up in here somewhere, but look how the Nile bends incorrectly. That's weird, and it goes all the way over to the Atlas Mountains. And then there's brown over there too. There's Ethiopians over there too. What the hell's up with that? Oh wait, now not even in Africa, there are Ethiopians all through here, and actually it's in the river valley of the Indus people and Sogdians and the Caucasus Mountains. The Caucasians are Ethiopians. You're getting this right. You're breathing in and out. Now I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but it'll hurt a whole lot less to understand that they're not even talking about you. And of course, nobody's talking about the West African primitives. Look at this map. It doesn't exist. They're not showing it. They just basically round that thing off and said this is the dead desert above the Nile that cuts through the desert. That's where they thought it went. They did not know. It was Dr. Livingston that figured it all out. But who are the microbians that are right there in the Horn? Oh, well, they say that there are people and they live this long life and they do all these other things and they're big, tall Caucasians and so on. Oh, yeah, and a lot of people have said that's got to be the land of Punt and everything. And I had an argument with a guy that as many days as she spent in the land of Punt, it could easily have been over here, and she could have gone around and even gone up into Samaria. And a guy said that, with them showing the fish, that she had to come out of the Red Sea totally, and so where did she come at? And it would be hard to believe that she'd come out of the Red Sea totally and then go back in that way, pass it up, with there being a place to go right out of there that's really about where my point is, right under the A of Arabia. So, and Moreau is not there, it's really up here, but this is the way they drew it, and this is the way they knew it, and it shows you he didn't know everything. But all he said was, the Ethiopians say, they're the most ancient of men, and blah, blah, blah. But also he mentions later, he goes, you can take that with a grain of salt, nobody believes that shit. Oh, blacks won't read that part. They want to read the other part, and then they want to say it from now on, and never let everybody know that I'm lying to you right now, because if you just go on, he says, that's what they said, but that's bullshit. But no, they don't want to. No. The Egyptian warriors chase the vile Negro troglodytes. They're the fastest they've seen. They chase them in 4-horse chariots. They eat snakes and lizards and other crawling things, and they have a strange speech where they screech like bats when caught. There's some Herodotus for you. You don't want to quote that one? I probably not. People have thought that screechy bat noise might be the Khoisan click noise and everything else. So if we're talking about Ethiopia, then that's what you're going to get. Now I want to show you what they say about the Caucasian race. And you're going to go, oh, duh. No, listen, West Africans are trying to tell duh. Stop it. So where are the Caucasians at? Well, they live in Europe. You can see that. Western Asia. Oh, right there. Oh, all the way up to Africa. What do we have now? Central Asia. Oh, back over there and up above India. They were all over the place, those Proto-Indo-Europeans. Even in India. But where else are they saying? North Africa. Oh my gosh, and that contains Egypt. Oh, so sad. Here's a tissue. Hold on. And even the Horn of Africa. What? Yeah, Caucasoid. It's a phenotype. It's people. Now, some of the blacks there are so admixed they can pass now for it. But everyone will tell you, well, that isn't what was going on later. That all came later. And these Bantu people weren't here and anything. No. In fact, there's Arabians and Turkish that are here now, all in Egypt, and they were way up there before. So that's not it. So now we can maybe get an understanding of what we're talking about whenever we say no. And those Caucasian Egyptians. That I could pull up just blue-eyed Egyptians, and I've done it in so many videos. My people that watch my videos are sick of it. You say blue-eyed Egyptians, and it'll show you crystal blue-eyed statues that come from the earliest of dynasties all the way through the 12th dynasty, even Queen Nefertiti. She's missing one eye, but the other one's there. It's blue too. Word Then try to pick out blonde or redhead mummies and click that, and you'll find out that there's, quite a few blonde and redhead mummies. But then when you look at the hair of even the brown-haired ones, that's not Negro hair in any way, shape, or form. And it's sad. Please quit. It's pathetic and very transparent. Stop. Because West Africans didn't even know it existed. But we're still on Nubians, and let's tear this apart. Let's continue.
And he also said that Nubia is the motherland of Egypt.
Now, he said they indicated that back when, before they unified the whole area, they used to get their gold from Nubia, and they even had another Nubia, which was located down near the delta. If you'll try to look this up and study it, they had that place called Nub, and this place called Nub. Now, the Negroes came into that area and invaded it. And so they called them Nubians, and we call them Nubians, but they didn't call them really Nubians. They were basically saying they're in the area of Nubia. So there's a distinction between calling Nubians Negroes and the people of Nubia. And when Egypt used to live in Nubia, there weren't any Negroids there. It's kind of like North Africa. Up until much after this time, there were always Caucasians there, and now there's Negroids there. In fact, all the way up into Europe. They were never there before, and this is just recently. So we can easily understand that something like that was going on way before, of these people that you're not related to, so don't get mad. You're not related to any of them over there, so it doesn't matter. In fact, it's a moot point. If they were all kings with diamonds built into their foreheads, you didn't know they existed and you're not related. But let's continue.
And more importantly, he said Egypt was a colony of Nubia.
No, he did not. He said those people, and he did not say Nubia, he said the Ethiopians. The Ethiopians, that Caucasian group I'm telling you about, like Caucasus Mountains and so on. The name means sunburnt faces. Does this man get a sunburn? I think we're through with that now. Ethiopia means sunburnt faces. Let's give it a modern take on it. Tanned? Well, no, you'd probably call them rednecks, because every one of those river valley runs out into farmlands. And so these are farmers, and they're half naked like the Egyptian shows everybody on the wall. Males are red ochre, females are very pale, just like Greek art, Mitanni, Minoan, Etruscan, everything. What's not in this picture? Negroids. What's really definitely not in this picture? West African sub-Saharan primitives. Let's go.
These people look at Herodotus, and these scholars say, man, Herodotus is not reliable, we can't take him serious. But then other scholars call him the father of history, so we can...
Don't get confused, Negro, and then try to confuse Negroes and then say, oh, because he talks about giant ants and cows that walk backwards and all kinds of shilly shit. And so they know that he's the father of hearsay, but he's also the father of histories because he started keeping things like that of people. And it works from there. Now, he didn't verify very many of these things. In fact, he tells you straightforward. Like in the one he said earlier, he goes, that's unreliable, I don't, put any money in that whatsoever. That's bullshit, basically. Right? It's funny, he doesn't say something that harsh about the Indian tale of giant ants that dig for gold. Well, we're not going to try to misconstrue and delude Negroids into believing West African primitives were over there. And that's disgusting. Let's continue.
can't have it both ways.
No, you can't have it both ways.
I would understand, or we can understand if there was one Greek historian that is saying all this stuff. But it's not just him, it's other Greek historians. And more importantly, the Nubians themselves.
More importantly, people have realized that a few of these historians are going off what others said, and they never went into Egypt whatsoever, but they were just recounting in it like, and Strabo says, and Herodotus says, and therefore it would just be, again, hearsay. It would be like, I'm going to send one guy to go to the store and tell me what kind of people are there, and then from then on, we're going to tell you that's what America is. Am I in Mexican town? Am I in the black part of town? Am I in, where am I at? What are you gonna say that would be about right? Would you have 12.6% Negroids, 25% Mexicans, and 65% Caucasians? Would you?
Diodorus, he said, this other Greek historian, he said that, yo, these Egyptians, their ways, their mannerisms, their culture, their religion, they all come from Ethiopians. And to the Greeks, Ethiopians were Nubians, or people.
And I'm going to stop him right there in the middle of his damn lie. And to Greeks, the Ethiopians were all these different people, as I've just showed you, and he's a lying piece. And it doesn't mean Nubians. In fact, why would they say Nubian and Ethiopian and Kushite if they're the same people? Well, it's an area. No, Nubia is an area, but we're not going to try to claim, oh, we as Kushites. No, the Kushites are different than the Nubians, or they wouldn't put them down on the wall as separate entities. Oh, but they have that one where black people are said to be Kushites. They had black Nubians under them, and they sent them to Icon to put forth things. But if you look at who's driving the chariot, it's a Caucasian driving the chariot for them in. And that wasn't to go see the king or anything. They had to pay homage in Icon. Look at the Simna Stele of Senjuret II or third, and it will tell you that they're not even allowed into Egypt. And it's been going on for a long time. And this is when they expanded the border even closer back to Nubia, that they had lost some territory, which is where you talk about where they once were. They once were all the way around that bend up there that is Nubia, and they used to collect their gold from there. For the name that they give them is Nehasu, and Nahasi. And to this day in Coptic, it kind of means worthless.
In that region. So we have to remember to put it in a proper historical context.
Yep.
We can't completely disregard what these Nubians are telling these Greeks. These Nubians are saying, yo, Egypt is a colony of us.
And Nubians didn't say yo, and Nubians didn't say they're a colony of us. Ethiopians did. Those 10 Caucasian farmers that are all through the Horn of Africa in the Caucasian race. Please quit lying. This is easy to pick right through. All you got to do is go, what's Caucasian race say? What is Ethiopians? What are you trying to tell people?
We're the motherland. We're the origin. This is where the culture comes from.
You're the origin. Well, out of Africa. Caucasians came out of Africa too. One of us was in sub-Saharan Africa in a small area over in the west, and the other one was all over North Africa, Egypt, and the Horn, and everywhere outside of that, all the way to China and India. West African primitives did not know Egypt existed.
So we can't disregard these ancient historians. We have to delve into this and have some discourse about, what this really means. So basically,
I just gave you discourse, and that's what it really means. And if you can debunk through it, try it real hard. Listen, any black people that are listening, I've been down this road 75 times. I can do it with my eyes closed, and it would be pathetic for you to think you could show me something you think is brand new. But if you think something is real brand new and worth a damn, put it in the comments and I'll debunk it real quick for you.
The 25th dynasty of Egypt was a Nubian dynasty. Now these Nubian kings,
Kushite. And if you ever get a close look at these statues that they always show, those are Caucasians like hell. In fact, they've noted how they have, the youngsters are drawn light-skinned, like in the Egyptian and in the Greek art. They're drawn light-skinned, but also this one has light hair, this one has light hair, and this one has light hair. They've actually put stuff on them to where they have light hair. If you ever get a good close look at this guy, he has the most alkaline nose and everything and blah, blah, blah. Oh, they tried to make the Negroes look more like Caucasians. No, nobody looks like this summit right here. Right? I mean, he's a nice guy, but he's lying out of his damn ass and really wants to have something to be true that's a lie. Nobody up there has a nose that's white as him or looks like they're in his ethnic group. You can tell that from here in a small picture. It's that simple.
Went up into Egypt and they conquered it. And one of the most significant things about this dynasty was Egypt flourished as a cultural and revolutionary restoration. There was a cultural, religious restoration of Egypt. And
after they took over, the Egyptian priest had been calmed down extremely bad, and they had had a lot of their powers taken away. So as soon as these came in, it was real funny kind of looking. A lot of people look back at it and say, well, as soon as they showed up, they said, oh, no, we control all this. Oh, we control all this. And we ask you yes or no. Sign here, sir. And tried to turn off some of the Pharaoh's power and everything. And it wasn't just some la la la. They came down. They set the Pharaoh on fire that was on the throne at the time, burned him alive, and stupid shit that everybody that heard about it got total loss of respect for him. It's considered the illegitimate dynasty. Look it up. And then after that, Egypt started fading, and all the way it only lasted 72 years. It destroyed Egypt to where from then on they were under vassals under other states. And the Persians, the Akkadians, whenever they freed them and kicked the hell out of all the people that were Kushites and the blacks out of Egypt easily, they put back an Akkadian in that spot? No, they put back an Egyptian in that spot. And it's too late. But me want to ride car. But don't get mad. You had nothing to do with it and didn't know it existed and aren't part of the Bible either. Let's go.
In that time period, these Nubian kings will go up to Egypt and try and restore the culture, the artifacts. These kings would build pyramids. They would restore temples.
They destroyed so many. The priests made them rebuild it, and then they wanted to use their wealth and power to usurp things, and just like they could suck money off of jobs and everything today and stuff, and literally had them rebuild a lot of things they wanted to have done that weren't getting done. And Moreau that you see right here, what's funny is they claim that, and oh wheeze, if you go in one of those doors and look in the pictures, they've got Isis real pale on the wall and the Caucasian gods. They were praying to the Caucasian gods. Oh, of Egypt. Yeah, they're subjected to him. Oh yeah, that's the way it is. If you can't understand it, it's much like in America today where blacks are praying to a Caucasian god of the Jewish slave master's Bible that is only about Caucasians, and it's a Caucasian god that made Caucasians in his own image. So it's about them. And everybody can adopt it, of course, but I get into that discourse all the time too, where they try to claim Hamites and so on. Well, these Caucasian Egyptians are Hamites, and if you look up Hamites, like I looked up Caucasian race, you'll see it's a division of the Caucasian race, and blah, 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 no Negroid. And then we end it. In fact, if you read on down, it'll tell you how Islamic people and then the Jewish slave master used the idea that, well, these people are here somewhere, and they've got to be from our boat thing, and started exploiting them, and then turned it back off later. Oh, wait, no, they didn't. It was white people that fought and died to end slavery that you try to blame as the slaver. How disgusting. Let's continue. But Moreau, right here, that's Cambyses' sister. Cambyses the Persian. They call themselves Aryans too. Over there, Persians. That's what the name Moreau is. And whenever they talk about Kandake or whatever, that's Candace. And that's the name of a queen in Persia. Like just saying queen. It's not like Candace, like Phineas and Ferb's Candace. Basically, every queen is called Candace. She's the Kandake. Candace. That's where that comes from.
And even restore religious literature and texts. So, what does that tell us today? These kings, the first one, Kashta, Pai, Shabaka, Shibiku, Sahar,
Ya Yim Yim, Ya Mang Mang, Wa Wing Wing, and you're not related. And they always like to show this one. And while they try to say it looks so Negroid and everything, his lips are half the width or quarter the width of his. He wouldn't have been a Negroid that was any relation to the person that's in here at the time. But doesn't that look like Jack Black wearing a bunny outfit or a lion face onto it? You can't take something like that and take it for full realism. They're trying to make his face rounded like a lion type thing. And if you look at the other pictures of him, he doesn't look like that. And if you look at the pictures I just told you about, you look up just Kushite statues and they'll show them to you. Hell, I might do it here in a minute. Let's go.
one of my personal favorites, and Tantamani, All these kings, most of them went up into Egypt and started restoring the culture and the religion and started building pyramids and restoring temples. Now we say to ourselves, why did these guys do this? Like, what were they doing? And then we realize that they knew who they were. They knew they were restoring what was theirs, their origin. Egypt came from Nubia. That was
He's trying to do that to you, isn't he? I'm gonna dindu dung hut and tell you that West African yip yip, and here we go, and I point the finger at you, and you go, da. No, 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 no. These Kushites and Ethiopians back then are, of course, these Caucasian farmers that are in there, and they've got the Nubians under them. And while it looks like they admixed some and got into it with each other, they admixed with somebody who doesn't have any Negroid DNA in Sub-Saharan. The Ethiopians today, when you check their DNA, is 40 to 50% Caucasian, and they have no Sub-Saharan DNA. What? They have a Nilotic type DNA. It's from over here. They're not related to the Khoisan Hottentot thing. They're not related to the Pygmies. Central Africans are West Africans in any way. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, that's why they say they're so diverse. Africa is that it's not just one people. Just like American Indians, that wasn't one people. The Comanche are so much different than these, than those, than these. It's incredible. There's no similarity to it. Like, you can take somebody like Putin and somebody from Europe, and you can tell they're real close related. And short of the Arabic thing and the twist and Turkish and the admix that goes on, all these people used to look that way, including those incredible Caucasian Egyptians that he just tried to claim somehow were Nubians. But the Egyptians call them vile Nubian troglodytes, which means primitive, unaware cave dwellers, and they're not even allowed in there. Well, why wouldn't they allow them in? This is just like the first apartheid, just like South Africa. Would you say now or in 100 years black people built that? For they stood a defense and wanted something and coveted. Oh, and hey, everybody can disagree with apartheid and everything else, but they didn't make, Johannesburg and South Africa and those beautiful cities in any way, shape, or form, and now they're just tearing it up and don't have a clue, and everybody sees it and they know, and God knows why they did this, and then Nelson Mandela and the crap that went on. But let's continue.
their mindset. So they were restoring what was theirs. They were restoring Egypt. They didn't want it lost. Egypt is in the middle of a lot of different nations.
Now, they worshipped Egypt, and Egypt was the big thing. And it would be like if America got fucked up and Mexicans all ran up in here and rebuilt it and then actually went back to Mexico and said, man, I hate that happened to you, but we've been such good friends. Hey, but you don't see any of that attitude. Of course, nothing like that happens, but you don't see that attitude from people anymore. It's all a me's, especially from these black people that it didn't have anything to do with any of those advanced civilizations. And they're trying to talk about it, but while they're trying to talk about all these ancient civilizations, are they doing anything in a modern day, or are they still causing the most crime out of anybody, even though they're 12.6%? I'm sorry, it's just males, so it's like 6%. I'm sorry, it's really 15, between 45 and 15, and so it's probably 4.5%. Are causing well over 50% of the crime in America. Rapes, everything else. You ought to get a handle on that before you try to get a handle on we was. And you're never going to get your handle on we was Egyptians, we was Hebrews, we was Moors. All of that's dead. You try starting out with we were, there were West African primitives, but now